Okay, guys, let's start. So, on a previous demo, we showed you several prototypes and proof of concept regarding some of the functionality, for example, catalog search and the work with the shopping cart. During this week, we spent quite a lot of time to make these prototypes to be unsatisfied for our guidelines and the code requirements we have internally in Magento. That's why we have quite a lot of technical stories during technical stories and tasks during the current week, during the current sprint, actually. So, according to today's agenda, we will start from the first subject. We would like to present to you that module inventory indexer has been introduced. You probably know that we made quite a lot of changes for the inventory indexation because our indexation is not pretty typical. We already got an approval from our product owner, from Mark Brinton, that we will update source item always with the update on save mode, and we would not support update by schedule because actually our reservation placement and the work with the inventory is asynchronous by its nature. So even update on save is also a synchronous operation. So we no need additionally to support update by schedule. That would be just confusing. And actually making a refactoring of that indexation code and all the code devoted for the indexation, we decided to introduce a new module. And actually the name of that module is InventoryIndexer, and now we place all that code to that module. And actually that's very good, so we aligned with that decision with our basic architectural concept we have in Magento 2. We raised that question several times regarding similar cases with Anton Kirill. And actually, that's really cool when you have the index in a separate module, because the indexation, as well as it's pretty similar like with the cache, should not be in the same entity, and actually entity should know nothing that it's beyond cached or indexed, because this is just a supplementary work just to speed up the whole process. That's why actually we introduce this in the inventory indexer module, and potentially inventory indexer is also switchable module. So potentially we can run the system without inventory indexer. So this is pretty good from the modularity point of view, as well as it's pretty good from that we don't have a lot of dependencies. And our system is like could be built on top of basic layer. It could be extensible, and it could be some additional complexity could be introduced along the way. That actually was the main decision, and that's improve the code quality. So we already have that module, inventory indexer, in our code base, and actually the main responsibility inventory indexer. And you're probably already aware that we have the multi-dimensional index, because we have several dimensions by means of which we need to invalidate our index, so that all of that logic will be played there. It's actually already placed. So this is the first update. The second one would be presented by Roman Glushko from Atvix. So he will show you the introduction of the source link as a part of the API. So probably the name of the story sounds a little bit technical, but I believe Roman will describe you in more detail the business idea behind the technical story. So Roman, feel free to share your screen.
Yeah, hello guys, and hello Igor. Yeah, let me share my screen, and I'm gonna show you a couple of interfaces that will change our domain model a little bit. So yeah, before I would say that a couple of weeks I was working on this pull request, and now it's almost complete. Yeah, and yeah, before this changes, stock source links was or were under the hood of the module and was a kind of implementation details. But now they need to be reflected in the domain model because of information they are stored on their level. And we decided to store in the stock source links information regarding priority of exactly links that link store and source, stock and source. So yeah, that's why we need to introduce a new entity. So yeah, that's interface related to this entity data model. We introduce it into the inventory API module, and also introduced a couple more interfaces related to managing this entity, which are remove interface, save interface, and get list interfaces. So yeah, and we also refactored all our code that related to using the legacy implementation of links. And also we already refactored legacy code in newly introduced inventory indexer module. So yeah, and the next steps here is to introduce actually the priority and priority field to this entity and remove it from source, I guess source entity. And then we will be able to unblock a couple of other tasks, and most of them related to priority source selection algorithm. So yeah, I guess that's it from my side. Igor, correct me if I need something to add.
Actually, everything great. Thank you, Roman, for your update. I just want to mention that this story was really critical for us, and the implementation of this story helped us to unblock two very important business story. The first one, as Roman mentioned, it was adding the priority, because along with that story, we have other guys who are working with on algorithm for the source selection algorithm, which would be run at the time of the order processing. And at the time of the order processing, we need to decide from which particular sources we need to make a shipment to fulfill the order. And actually, we agreed with our product owner that in the MVP version of the MSI, we will just implement the basic strategy. And the basic strategy is supposed to be priority-based strategy. So we have priorities of sources in the scope of the stock. So for example, if we have the German stock and we have sources responsible for the Berlin, Munich, and Hamburg, for example, we can decide that first of all, for example, if a customer ordered a product, I don't know, maybe it's laptop, and we have the same laptop both on Berlin and Munich, we'll make a decision that this product gonna be delivered from Berlin because the Berlin has a higher priority. And initially, we had that priority at the level of sources, but taking into account that the same source could be reused in the scope of different stocks, we need to have that priority on the level of the source to stock link. That's actually why we decided to introduce this API, which Roman implemented, and we will use the priority. So the next task would be introducing the priority attribute to this link. So that will help us to implement the priority-based algorithm. Another business story which was unblocked after that. is
I have a question. One question regarding what you just said. So, can you please show me the API to create source link again? The signature of the method of operation.
This one?
Source link save. So, okay, in that case, can you please show me stock source link interface?
Stock source link interface. Yeah, sure. Here you go.
So you have here you have stock ID source code, right? And how is priority specified?
So, as I mentioned, we have the next task introduce a priority. So the priority is not implemented. We will add the priority. So, and we will add this like a typical attribute. So we would not add it as an extension attribute. We decided to use this like a normal attribute here. So we belong that like a third attribute priority, and it would be here.
But priority will make sense only for priority strategy, right?
Actually, we will reuse priority for another business story. So we have a business case that, for example, for the RMA, for the return, we also need to make a decision to which source we will return. So we will have we will make a return to the to the source with the biggest priority as well. So for example,
why not let the merchant make a decision where the
because it's MVP part, we will have interface. We will introduce along with that interface, which the name of the interface would be get source for the return based on the stock ID provided, and based on that we will return the source ID. In our default implementation, because it's the MVP, we will return. We will make a decision based on the highest priority.
Okay, but again, even for RMA, like that's something we should take offline. In my opinion, we should give the decision should be made by merchant, not automatically. But even if it's made automatically, if you want to support multiple different strategies, priority would only make sense for priority strategy, both for fulfillment and for returns, right? Because if for example, distance strategy would ignore priority, right?
I don't know yet. Maybe it would be, because, for example, if you have the same distance, or it depends. It depends how we will implement the distance strategy. Because even if we have the same distance, we need to make a decision somehow.
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to say. Do you already have a design for strategy APIs?
We had the design. It was documented like quite a long ago. I'm not sure whether it's still actual or no. Actually, so the main idea. So initially, we want to say regarding the priority. So the initial idea was to implement it as the extension attribute, but taking into account the performance aspect, and also because we will use the priority, at least in the MVP part, quite a lot. We decided to add it as a default attribute here.
I'm trying to avoid situation when for example, priority strategy, when like in 1 year we have multiple strategies, and priority strategy is a special kind of strategy that has fields in source links, and the reason is that because it's historically
actually the priority could be used also in admin grid, just for making a sorting.
Okay, I suggest let's do separate meeting to discuss design for strategies, not to take a lot of time here.
Okay, I actually just want to mention that we have pretty similar principle with the priority for the product to category link, where we have the category ID, product SKU, and the priority. and there we for example, use it for the visual merchandising.
Yeah, I understand that there are multiple users, but what I'm trying to understand, I'm trying to choose. I'm trying to make sure that we have clear vision how we'll use it, not just introduce it because,
Okay.
we'll find a reason why to use it later, right? So let's set up a separate design meeting. And
I believe we already have one in a week, so we can add this as a one bullet for the agenda of that meeting.
Design meeting. What do you mean? Huh?
We have a dedicated meeting with you.
Yeah, but I might want to join.
Okay, so that was really important thing, and thank you very much, Roman, for your update. So you see that that this topic is very interesting, and our lead architect pay attention on it. So that's actually just underline how important your work, which you contributed in the scope of this pull request. So
yeah, you're welcome, and I'm happy to say that I'm on my way to merge these changes, yeah, to complete all fixes. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the next one gonna be Yaroslav. I don't see Yaroslav on the meeting, but as I know, Yaroslav sent the video to Valery, and Valery will make a short presentation and also will highlight that video which Yaroslav recorded for this particular meeting.
Hello guys, unfortunately Yaroslav does not have visibility to visit our demo, but he provides video record, and I will share with you this. Record.
Different sources. So if we have log stock configuration, if we have. Hello guys. So the previous week I have.
Sorry guys, I forgot to share my screen.
Hello guys. So the previous week I have presented the log stock multi-source inventory, and we have the log stock values from different sources. So if we have log stock configuration that is higher for some product, that then the product criteria that we will show this product, this grid. So the previous week it was initial implementation of this functionality, and this week we already have working filters, so we can filter, and also we have the possibility to filter by source code using the dropdown where we represented all available sources in the system at the moment. And also we have finished the export functionality for this grid. We can export the grid values into formats in CSV and in the Excel format as well. Let's check the CSV version. So we can see that we have the proper set of columns and values here. And we can also export this grid in the XML format. And if we open it, for example, in Excel, we will see that we have the correct numbers of columns and correct values here as well. Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you, Yaroslav. Looks like we're close to finish this story. We have a few tasks related to some technical improvements, like model renaming, like providing some refactoring of collections, so on. And after finishing that, we will close these stories. Here, I stop share my screen, unmute, and disable my sound.
Okay. So, boom, 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 boom. Let me share my screen as well. Let's go to the roadmap. So on a previous demo, we show you several stories, and because we didn't have our product owner Mark, we agreed that we will ping him and ask whether we can close this story. So currently we are talking about add the source delivery awareness. Add source delivery awareness to order page. So it was shown previously, and we agreed that we can close it. So I will close this story right after this demo. And run source selection algorithm by request on order page. This story also has been presented, and we got an approval that we can close it. So I will close both of the story right after this demo, and we'll update the amount of story for the points.
And make sure to close the epics and then
Epics.
and tab.
So stories. Okay. Okay. So, is there any other open questions? Maybe some of the meeting participants would like to ask us something, or. By the way, actually, I have a question. So, actually, I have a question to Anton Krill. If I have time, and you're still on a meeting.
Yes.
So actually, it's pretty typical stuff like that we can update in several threads some entity, and for example, like two admins work in parallel can update the same entity, and while admin one is still working on entity form, the admin 2 can already make a persistence, and when the admin 1 make a decision to save the form as well, actually he will just overwrite already existing data. And we don't have like in a general case of general solution for this case, but actually in our case this could be a real big issue, because currently we're talking about the product update form, and we because we are supporting coarse grain APIs, and we save all the product data, and currently this inventory data is also part of the product data, but it should not be probably in the ideal world. But like for example, if the admin making an update of the product form and the order is placed like simultaneously with that, and even if the admin did not update the stock item quantity, because he wanted just to make update of the media data for the product, he will override existing data for source items. And actually, the main idea, and I hope that would be solved on the level of the new ORM, which will provide the some kind of MVCC, like versioning of the entity, and making the persistent. We will see that we are in a state A, but entity already in a state B, so we can just proceed with persistence because we are in the wrong state. But actually, ideally, we need to differentiate the inventory update and the product data update, because currently we can get to this to this problematic behavior for some merchants. And we already have the GitHub issue, and actually this GitHub issue was opened, and today we had a discussion with the maintainers. But so what do you see about this?
So do I see this as a problem? Yes.
I mean,
if it is be solved by ORM.
I mean, we need to align here on with the ORM track, that ORM is actually will support this case, like entity versioning and another stuff. What do you think regarding the separation inventory out of product? So editing product, so we are losing here the coarse grain API. So because the inventory would be like another API call, and we can't like now save the inventory along with the product data.
I think it makes sense to separate the inventory from product data, and I would sacrifice this ability to create product with entity in one API call to have separate inventory APIs. Inventory APIs are updated much more often than product information.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually the main point. But actually, in this case, we will need to reconsider our look and feel, because currently it's on the same page on the, so because inventory currently, so probably we need to introduce a dedicated tab with the inventory data, and it should not be on the product edit.
That's an important topic, and I think it's being raised third or fourth time. Let's finalize it. Can you please set up a call between product owner, me, Anton Kapla, and
okay. Yeah, actually, I wanted to bring Anton Kapla to this conversation as well. Okay, cool. So looks like that's all, and thank you all for the participation, and stay tuned, and I will share this recording of this meeting very soon. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.